Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another thrilling episode of War with Vince Battle. I'm joined by my femme fatale partner here, Sara.
Woo!
And we're living our best life right now. We're in 2021.
Woo.
The sky's blue, the weather's forming, and I'm still stuck inside in my shell of an apartment. Life's great. Woohoo!
Woohoo! We love it. It's great. It's a great time to be comatose.
Basically.
Uh,
Yeah. So we got some great news coming from you from the industry from all over. We got independent news from independent creators. We got Marvel news, DC news, and we got a spoiler, a TV show that we may have recommended in one of our podcasts before got an award. So let's just dive into it.
yes.
So the first set of news is that the CW's Naomi finally they started filming their pilot, and they showed a couple of shared sets. If you guys aren't aware, Naomi is a comic that was created by Jamal Campbell, David Walker, and Brian Michael Bendis, and it's pretty much to. I'll describe it. It pretty much portrays a African American young woman in nerd culture being a superhero. So you might notice the similarities between this and
Gwenpool,
or even something more I consider a little more substantial. Miss Marvel by G. Willow Wilson.
makes sense.
But even though you may see this, but just don't knock this down. I know that some people like myself are not a fan of Brian Michael Bendis because he can't write young people, but he had someone like David Walker to balance it out. So, it is what it is. But I'm excited to see another person of color have a shot on TV, particularly in the DC universe. And DC doesn't really have the best representation all the time.
No, it really doesn't. I mean, as we can tell, but we'll touch on that later in the episode. I think also a big thing coming up for DC where they're starting to film is now Dwayne The Rock Johnson has confirmed that Black Adam is moving and grooving. We will, knock on wood, be seeing that pretty soon.
Yeah, I'm excited that they got a Black Adam movie. Which if they're gonna do that whole multiverse thing, Black Adam does deal with Shazam. He's one of Shazam's villains.
Yep.
So I think it'd be pretty cool.
Amazing.
Yeah, please, it's probably, in my opinion, next to Aquaman, and the first one will be the best of the DC universe
Honestly,
movies. And that's, yeah.
I mean, and Birds of Prey. I always forget that Birds of Prey is a DC movie because it's so un-DC that my brain is like, that can't be a DC movie, but it's a DCEU movie, Birds of Prey.
Birds of Prey to me is a very antithesis DCEU movie. Yeah, it's so antithesis.
Do you mean antithetical, Matt?
Antithetical, yeah. I'm sorry. It's such a weird. Honestly, it's such a weird movie that I don't know. It's like, yeah, this is totally a DC movie, but I don't know. It has much more of like an independent, like wacky spirit than I would call it. Yeah.
It feels like a good movie, and therefore cannot be in the DC canon. Oh god, we're gonna get murdered. I'm sorry. No, there are good DC movies. It's just it definitely felt very antithetical, sort of, to the whole ethos of the DCU, because it was fun and hyper violent and just like all around ooey goodness.
Yeah, it's like and actually, if we think about it, a little tangent here, all the DCU movies that we consider good that we tell people to watch are not like Snyder level weird or anything like that. It's just not what they're pushing for. Like Shazam is just awkward and fun. Wonder Woman is pretty good. Birds of Prey is just hyper violent fun. I'm just saying, all these movies have something
Birds of Prey
good.
is like, what if Quentin Tarantino did
he did Suicide Squad. Yeah.
Which, like, obviously though there would be way more sex and way more feet if it were Quentin Tarantino, but you get the gist. Obviously, like, I'm trying to remember, was that Kathy Yang who did Birds of Prey? Am I?
Oh, let me check the director. It's been a while, but I want to assume.
I like to bring up Birds of Prey whenever my brain is just sad. It's like, hey, you remember Birds of Prey exists? I'm like, yeah, that's a dope soundtrack. God, that's good.
You are correct. It was Kathy
Yan. Yep, she's amazing. Please give her more movies, DC. I mean, we'll see how James Gunn does with Suicide Squad.
Yeah, I'm excited just the tangents he's going to do because it'll be fun. It'll be, I don't know. I feel like that's what DC actually missing. They're missing the fun factor in their movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing wrong trying to sell a serious story, but like, we'll see. Anyway, so back on track. Black Adam is moving through, which I guess gives us also a good indication that Shazam is going to be happening. But we did lose 2 movies as DCU is moving forward, with a different lineup.
Yeah, they decided to let go of New Gods and the second Aquaman movie, The Trench. I'm kind of upset about this because what will the director of Aquaman, James Wan, do? I mean, he did a really good job with Aquaman because, again, when you don't think of Aquaman, again, as we mentioned, you don't think of good movie. It's Aquaman, LOL, he talks to fishes. But Jason Momoa, very handsome person, made that movie work. That's all I can say.
He's very charismatic. And I also think that, like, The Trench was going to be a little bit more horror-inspired because it's about those, like, creepy, non-speaking monsters that attack them in the middle of the movie. And that really is James Wan's wheelhouse. But I'm also really sad that Ava DuVernay isn't going to be moving forward with New Gods.
Yeah.
Because, that I think had a lot of Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, this is terrible to it's not comparing apples and oranges, but, like a lot of Guardians of the Galaxy energy where it's like weird space opera bullshit that, like, nobody really knows what it's about, so you can actually kind of do whatever you want with it.
True, but the New Gods, to me, if you're going to make a New Gods universe, I would take it like 2 or 3 part movie because it's a lot to deal with. One of the key points of the New Gods is, I'm going to just outline it for you to everybody. So, in the New Gods, there are they are the new beings of the universe. Think of them as similar to Thor and Asgard. So you have Highfather, who is the good guy with many of his sons and descendants and siblings fixing the universe, and then you have one bastard guy called Darkseid. Darkseid just rejects Highfather and New Heaven, all that stuff, and he decided to say, screw you, I'm going to create my own world, Apocalypse, and deal with that. And Apocalypse and Highfather and New just been in war for years, causing them to have a peace treaty where each of them trade their sons to each other. Highfather gives his son to Darkseid, and Darkseid gives his son to Highfather, and that son is Orion. Orion is a hero who's very angry about his past and tries to do things about it. You also have Miracle Man. You also have Big Bartha. There's a lot of cool ethos and things in here, and I think and to do it in one movie probably wouldn't be a good idea. It's a lot of concept. Like when Jack Kirby created this back in the days, a lot of cool concept and aesthetics with this series. Think of, like I said, I think of it more of a space Thor, space gods, but.
Yeah, it's very space opera.
But exactly. That's what space opera. And I do believe that I don't want to butcher her name. Ava DuVernay.
Ava DuVernay, yep.
DuVernay, yeah. I'm see, I hate my Haitian accent. I'm saying it like I would say like she's my auntie. But Ava, I think, is the perfect person to do this, but if you put it into a series, like 2 or 3 movies. But again, it's canceled. So, and Tom King, who's a great writer, as much as people give crap for Tom King for being repetitive over the years, he does know what he's doing. So I'm like,
yeah, nope. So there's a lot happening there. But I think the biggest news of the last couple of weeks, is that Ray Fischer basically came out and wrote an op-ed about how did by Warner Brothers and Warner Media and everything that had happened sort of behind the scenes of Justice League. That essentially, pushed him to speak
not
out
work with them
publicly.
anymore. Yeah. I'm sorry, but I'm very upset about this because I mentioned in my op-ed piece of Justice League Snyder Cut, I can't praise this movie from how Warner Media treated Zack Snyder. I'm sorry, not treated Zack Snyder, treated Ray Fisher, because Zack Snyder. He's been hinting towards this and made many accusations about his horrible treatment of Warner Media for years, talking about how they swept on the rug. We mentioned here on this podcast in the backlog, like the last episode and the episode before that. Please check it out. And it's upsetting because he's been saying this for a long time, and I support him because it sounded true, and it's very true. And now that people are like, oh my God, I can't believe it's true. He's been saying this for months. And people just ignored it because they got, some people ignored it because they got a movie out of it. I'm like, I don't feel comfortable with that. And he points out the abuse he received from this was like insane from Joss Whedon. And the thing is, this is all documented. He has people corroborating him. He has Gal Gadot confirming some of these abuse. He has Gal Gadot confirming some other stagehands. It's amazing. This is like well thought out, documented. Every single abuse he has suffered. Other actors who tried to work with them. And it doesn't stop at Joss Whedon. It goes up to the Warner Media president, and people may not want to hear this. It goes up to the guy who was responsible for saving the DC universe, comic and movie-wise, in the 2000s, Jeff Johns.
Yep. And I mean,
yes.
we'd heard a lot of, I mean, Joss Whedon stuff aside, because Joss Whedon is his own worst enemy, really. A lot of what ended up happening, especially with Gal Gadot or Gal Gadot, I never know how to say her name. Gal, yeah,
I don't know.
Like, we're friends. She's my gal pal.
Yeah.
Terrible. I apologize, Miss Gadot. She basically said that she had the clout and the ability to put her foot down and say, fuck off. But, you know, Ray Fischer, being like basically a junior member of the cast, like very, very much like limited in his scope in Hollywood, and having not really made any money for DC yet, was not able to do so. And so that really speaks to, like, this wasn't a targeted thing at Ray Fischer. It was very much like an everybody is a piece of shit, and then Ray Fischer, everyone was treated like a piece of shit, and then Ray Fischer spoke out because he couldn't, like, he wasn't going to sit by and just let this happen, because he was shat on the most, being the youngest in terms of, like, Hollywood cred, I guess.
Yeah,
the most vulnerable member of that cast.
Yeah,
which kind of makes me wonder, like, hey, Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, where you at, bruh?
Exactly. You beat me to it. I was like, what's going on here? Where's Ben Affleck put, like, Ben, like, I got a check cleared. Who cares, you know?
To be fair, Ben Affleck and Matt Damon have had a lot of accusations thrown at them in the past. Now, the validity of those accusations I cannot speak to, and it has been a good long while since we've heard anything from them, but to me, it seems very much that they're not rock the boat kind of people. And I can't speak for Henry Cavill, obviously, who does genuinely seem like a nice enough guy. But yeah, it is interesting to note that, like, the most vocal people were Ray Fischer, a black man, and Gal Gadot, a white woman. So
yeah, what makes it more upsetting is that I've again, this tangent. I heard people on the internet like dislike before this piece came out from the Hollywood Reporter, like Ray Fisher's being an uppity. They try to care for like John Boyega, like he's a grateful position. So it's like, no, homie, human respect is important. And two, you cannot discredit this as et cetera, et cetera. It's like, oh, he's just a small actor trying to get famous. So you telling me getting paid in a movie is good enough? You should just like throw hot water on my face and coffees as call me. At this point, most of call him, racist term. Please don't get mad at me. Most of call him Toby, Like at this point, because they're okay with it. People like making excuses. Oh, he's a small actor. He doesn't know. He's just trying to get famous, just like John Boyega did. They're just being rebel rousers, and then and the proof came out for both of them. Like, wow, where are you guys at now, huh? He was right. He has as one might say, the receipts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to quote one of Jeff Johns' quotes when he said about this, is that Jeff Johns has media people, so this is his representative, which represents him. Jeff gave us notice that a fictional character, as an example, a sympathetic man who is unhappy, has an inclination to hide the world, but one who the audience root for because he has a courageous heart. And then this is according to Ray Fischer. Ray Fischer said that this was the last creative conversation I had, anything that Jeff Johns I had. I knew that I was on my own. Johns' rep denies that he ever dismissed any comments aiding Fisher knew Johns, who the spokesman requested to be identified as a Lebanese American. Cool, using identity politics. Cool. Had evolved traditionally an all-white DC property like Shazam, Justice Society America, and other diverse heroes in his intensive look at a comic book author. So this quote right here is just him when the Hollywood Reporter decided to investigate his claims, Jeff Johns, the representative, and Ray Fischer just pointed out that he didn't give me the proper time of day. And according to Ray Fischer, he said it was like he was assuming that black people respond rather than taking advice from the only black person, as far as I know, which had any creative impact on the project, Fischer says. And something that me and Sara advocate a lot for this, and it's not using id poll or identity politics, that sometimes to learn about how a certain character or anything works, it's best to talk to the people how they respond to it. It's one of the reasons why I mentioned earlier when I said Brian Michael Bendis has a problem writing children, is that because he's an old Caucasian white man. It's not he's untalented. It just sounds weird that he's writing for characters who happen to be black. I'm just saying, perhaps it'd be good if he worked with a black author or done some research how to black people talk. instead of just writing it off his own whims. Cyborg is a black man. Perhaps the actor who's playing as black, you could take his advice into creative input to help them make the character better. Though you are famous for writing Teen Titans, that is writing it in a book format. This is a person portraying to be black and is black. And to dismiss him is pretty bad.
Right. Well, unfortunately, this isn't the first interesting runoff Jeff Jones has had in the last couple of weeks. Considering all the stuff that has been happening with Krypton. So if you guys haven't heard, Reggae Jean Page, who is really big for a show called Bridgerton, if you haven't watched it, basically he is fine as hell. He auditioned for the role of Superman's grandfather in Krypton, and he didn't get it. And basically Jeff Jones allegedly said that the reason he wasn't cast, or the reason he shouldn't be cast, is because there's no way that Superman could have a black grandfather. Which, listen, as a white person, and as a person whose family directly comes from a colonial background, my family's from Spain, it's not really up to me to say who can and can't be cast in general, but I'm going to say this. Given the racial history of the United States, and just in general, the way genetics works, there are white people out there in the world who you would look at and be like, that person is a white person who might have two black parents because of the way that slave owners raped slaves. That happens, and then the characteristics don't come out so much later. Or, just in general, they have, black ancestry somewhere down the line. That doesn't mean that, if you look white, then you must be 100% white. That's not how genetics works. How genetics works. You can have black, Asian, Hispanic, Latino, indigenous or Native American ancestry in your bloodline. It just doesn't show up on your face. That doesn't make you less a part of that lineage. And also, it's also this idea that, Superman is white. I'm like, Superman's an alien!
Yeah.
You can make him do whatever you want. He's an alien.
Yeah, here's the worst part, too. In other universes, we have a black Superman, Earth 2, Earth 3 in Superman, so it's it's possible. What's the big deal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, and I don't know if Jeff Johns knows this, or other people know this, just because you cast an actor in a role doesn't mean that it has to be realistic. Just playing the man's grandfather doesn't fucking matter. If you really needed to explain it away, I'm sure you could find a way of some bullshit, but listen, if you, or like me, you grew up with the Brandy Cinderella musical with Whitney Houston, you would know that the Asian prince had a black mom and a white dad, and you know what? None of us questioned it. We were all like, yeah, that makes sense.
Hold up. Asian? I thought he was, be more specific. I thought he was Filipino when I saw when I was younger.
Yes, he is. Well,
oh, okay.
Honey, Filipinos are Asian.
Sorry. He's a little brain
I was like, don't piss off the Filipinos. I love
I've been raised too direct. When people say Asian, I think of China, Korea, Japanese, and whenever every other Asian is Southeast Asian, Philippines, etc. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. At least you acknowledge it. I actually had a coworker who straight up told me to my face that people from India were not Asians.
Oh God!
And I was like, how wrong do you want to think you are? But anyway, not the point. But what I'm saying is listen, and I get that I hate when people will do this when a white actor gets cast in a role that specifically calls for a person of color, and they go, well, it's just colorblind casting. But then when the opposite doesn't happen, where it's a black person could play this character whose race is not really important, then they're like, oh, but the white, and it's just yeah, but the whiteness is not a defining characteristic of this character. I wouldn't want a black person to play a Grand Wizard of the KKK. You know what I mean? That.
Oh yeah, 100%.
That doesn't make sense. But is there a canonical reason that Superman's grandfather has to be white instead of any other race? No. I mean, there are canonical reasons why Tiger Lily from Peter Pan should not be played by a white person. A lot of them, but there's nothing that says that other characters whose race is not specific to the role shouldn't play certain characters. And also, like, listen, we've had white people play Hispanics, Asians, everybody under the sun. Like, believe you me, it's fine. You can cast him. If they had just been like he wasn't right for the role, it would have been like a better sell than no.
Yeah.
But Superman can't have black heritage. Why? Like, literally, also, how does it make sense if he gets power from the sun? Wouldn't it make more sense for him to have darker skin tones that, like, spend a lot of time
It's a whole bunch. There's a whole bunch of things with it, and I personally just find the idea, like, does it all it shows his ancestry. Perhaps aliens don't look at race like we look race.
Yeah.
Again, race is, here's a breaker, guys. A little big brain moment. Race is a social concept, okay? Social. We made it up.
Yes. I mean, obviously there are differences between people in different areas, but like the fact that like race has to be segregated so tightly, especially genetic wise, is a weird human person thing.
Yeah, exactly. But speaking of things that's important, it's like so little Ray Fisher also mentioned that him and the other executive producer John Burke were thrown on the bus by the president of Warner Media, who is Walter Hamada, I believe his name is. You can quote me correct on that. And he felt they were all thrown on the bus because they were all, John Berg agreed with Fisher and spoke out that a lot of his behavior that was done to him and other actors and people in the, I guess, in the Warner Media studio house was done to, in some instances, to protect Jeff Johns. So, and I'm a little upset how people aren't covering, at least putting more cover emphasis on this. We all Joss Whedon bad, Josh bad. We get that. But it's like, now that the idea that Jeff Johns may be inciting, again, this is all accusation, not much proof, that there was some evidence pointing that he harbored or was responsible for a culture of toxicity. And I love Jeff Johns. I'm going to be honest. Jeff Johns, without him, I wouldn't have Comics 2000s, from his Justice Society to his Teen Titans to his Rebirth he did to his Supermans. He is a talented human being who helped revive Marvel. And I'm sorry, not Marvel. Revive DC. He did work at Marvel, did Avengers, but he provides DC during the time where, as another guy I don't like, Dan Didio was working at DC. When every time Dan Didio messed up, you call Jeff Johns fixed the line, and it happens over and over again, like a chemical cycle. But it's just like, I find it really upsetting that Jeff Johns moved up in the company. He went from writer to TV to editor. He's like moving top of Warner Media, and now he's kind of the tip of Warner Media. A lot of problems are happening while he's kind of moving on up, and I'm a little concerned that they're protecting him. And if this happens again, I'd be like, you know what? I love Jeff Johns, but he might be a problem. And Ray Fisher's pointing this out, completely with evidence. And please check out The Hollywood Reporter. Look up Ray Fisher, and you'll find not only some accusations, just some anecdotal evidence that may link to make you believe, hey, the problem isn't just Josh bad. It goes up above him. Because toxic people, and this is, Sarah, you might disagree or may pick this a little more context. Toxic people hire toxic people. That's what I believe.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, it's the cycle of toxicity, baby. Just round and round and round.
Yeah. So I personally am glad that Ray Fisher came out with lots of, came out with this article, because he was saying this for months. I'm glad that he wrote an article about it. I'm glad that there's people reading it and taking into consideration. But let's take more consideration, not just to look at, Josh bad, Warner bad. Look at the people who actually prominent, from Mr. Hamada to Jeff Johns. And arguably, as you point out, talk about why, in my perspective, why Ben Affleck to talk about it, because Ben Affleck has some not proven things about his past that can be a little bit muddy. So it kind of proves that there's a culture of boys club. Is that the best way to say it, Sarah?
Yeah, I would say so. It's definitely
it's a
very insular sort of society.
Yeah. So I honestly hope, and the thing that what makes it worse is that I think I mentioned the last episode or previous in the podcast, please check it out, is that they hired an investigation and the investigation got canned by Hamada. So Rafe is just left. So I'm just upset that he's, like I said, even in my my op-ed, my piece on Justice League, and I said it on the Spoilercast podcast, Ray Fisher's a phenomenal actor, one of the best. I think his role really did carry this movie, and it's just such a shame he went through such hell, and, it is what it is.
Through that. Well, unfortunately, there's nothing we can really do about it now.
Yeah, but we all know now. Yeah.
Do.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh no. Oh no. Okay. So yeah, I just found another clip that on Twitter someone just clipped a point about Jeff Johns from the article. Someone said that um Jeff Johns' spokesman said this, that we were standard continuity notes as for a scene that was not only personally offensive to Jeff Johns, but people who know who he is, but know the work he's done in his life. Jeff has personally firsthand seen painful effects of racial stereotypes and other cultural stereotypes, having been married to a black woman who he was for a decade with his second wife, who is Asian American, as well as his son, who's mixed race. I'm like, you know, it makes me cringe because, okay, so Jeff Johns married twice to a black woman and an Asian woman, has a mixed race kid. But this is my thing. So he divorced twice and has mixed race people, and he's nuts. And that they can't prove. Guys.
Yeah, this is the I have black friends defense. My black friend said it's okay. It's like doesn't make it not racist, buddy. Like just
exactly
be okay, like, from one black person, if that even happened.
Yeah, exactly. I'm upset by this because it's like, look, buddy, every human being has biases. Just because you partake in elements of their culture or you married or intersect doesn't mean you don't have it. And it doesn't really, again, I don't like, this is my personal pet peeve, and I'm not going to say all Caucasian people, but Caucasian people use, like, I have the black friend or I have this, I can't be racist. It's not that you're racist, that you're being inconsiderate. That's a term you need to understand. You're being inconsiderate right now, okay? Just please learn some consideration, God. Yeah. I'm reading Twitter and people defending it, and I'm like, please don't defend this. I'm going to block this Twitch. I can't read this. Block.
And blocked. Yeah, so there's a lot happening with that. I mean, it makes sense just because, you know, this is a really difficult, tricky topic, but, you know, it's going to be evolving. We're going to have to see what happens. Hopefully Ray Fischer will be able to find more work, and so will Reggae John Page, because he's great and I really like him. I mean, I think he's going to be just fine.
Oh yeah, he's going to be fine. He has Regal.
He is fine as hell.
Yeah, I have to double check to confirm if he has French descent. The way people say his name, like, is he French descent? I don't think so.
Yeah, he's Reggae. I looked it up before this episode because I'm always really paranoid. I'm like, yeah, it's Reggae John Page.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Jean.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, because he's my people. I was like, yo, Haitians unite. We did it.
We did it, guys. Everyone go home.
We're gonna go home. Speaking of things we did and go home about, the GLAAD Awards announced sometime, I think last week. They announced that they have their awards come out, and She-Ra won the Outstanding Kids Awards and Family Programming. So shout out to Nicole Stevenson and the rest of the team of that show. Noelle, sorry, not Nicole. Noelle. Yeah, she wrote Nimona.
Yeah. Which got shafted because now the movie's not coming out.
Yeah, it was a little tangent. It was because of rights issues.
Well, it's because they closed down Blue Sky Animation. It got bought out, and they're like, "Nah, we're not gonna make it." Disney's like, we're not making it.
Right, and from what I understand is that because the Blue Sky got shut down and purchased over, I don't think she sold the rights to it, but she gave them the property rights to it, and she couldn't get it back to hand to somebody else. So that's the part I understood, but it's still pretty bad.
The contract will run out eventually. Disney could also release her from the contract, which is the other thing that they could do, but they're not gonna, because Disney wants to own everything.
Yeah,
but we'll see. Hopefully one day we'll see a Nimona movie. It's a really cute comic, guys.
It's her early works. I feel, even though I could recommend it to people, compared to her other work she does later on from TV and to Lumberjanes, those are much more refined. They're slightly better. But reading this as a rough works, you get to understand her ideologue and her approach of writing, so you get to appreciate it more because, this is how you started, and then you watch, like, good stuff now, so you're like, yay. But I'm serious, shout outs to her and her team. It's a pretty good cartoon, regardless of the fan base have their ships all not aligned. But I think it was pretty good. I'm very proud that it got recognized.
Got recognized.
Game recognized game,
Game recognizing game. Speaking of game recognizing game. No, that was a bad segue, but I'm going to stick with it. we are getting a new show on Netflix for the superheroes. It's Jupiter's Legacy, which is very exciting. It's based on Mark Millar's comic of the same name. Basically, the premise is there was the first generation of superheroes, so your golden age of superheroes, and then
Yeah.
they basically protected the Earth for 90 years, and then they passed down the torch to their children, who, as the Silver Age ones, have all these like problems and complications and drama. You know what I mean? Like it's very clearly like a metaphor for like Golden Age and Silver Age comics, like the transition over in narrative plot lines instead of just being like, hi ho, we just gonna save the world, everything is great and peachy, versus like, my inner turmoil, God, my inner turmoil.
Yeah, it's really interesting because it is a generational story, similar to, I guess one might say, what's currently popping in the Amazon Primes. Invincible. It also reminds me a bit of a good storytelling that I like from a comic that I may recommend one day, Planetary by Warren Ellis and John Cassidy.
And
Yeah.
Sky High.
Sky High, yeah, those boys. Yeah, those boys, yeah. But it's a really, honestly though, it's a really good series. It's yeah, Jupiter Legacy, the Jupiter Circle, it's really good. I'm glad it's being made to a TV format, but this is my thing. He didn't finish it.
Yeah.
He didn't finish it.
That didn't stop them with Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, and it's not going to stop them now.
It's not going to stop. To be fair, though, I did watch the first season from an organization. It quite slaps. It slaps very well.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, Sabrina slaps. So that's all I can.
Sabrina slaps real hard, but true. But basically, yeah, just because the comic isn't finished doesn't mean that they won't make a TV show out of it. They'll just go in a different direction, and that's fine. Like, do what you want, what you want.
True. The problem I have though is not a problem. It's like, okay, this guy Mark Millar, great writer. He's been writing this series for years with God knows deadlines, etc., etc. So it's like, Mark, you haven't finished the series, bro. And he's like, don't worry about it. So it's gonna, like, to me, it's like he's been doing it since, like, I want to say mid 2000s. So it's been like maybe 10 plus years. Still hasn't finished it. So I'm like, Mark, you gonna finish the story? I got it on TV. Me, oh boy,
it's
on TV.
It's fine.
Yeah. But I'm excited to see it, though. I think it's pretty cool. And speaking of people going back to finish their series, always correct me because I always have bad at pronunciation. Johan Vasquez, the creator of Invader Zim, is coming back to the comic to finally finish the series.
That is an excellent question. I do not 100% know how to pronounce that. I think it's Johan Vasquez.
Yeah.
But not 100%, so don't go. But yeah, so basically the guy who made Invader Zim.
Yeah, the guy made Invader Swim, and he's coming back. He's back to finish up his works. I find it super interesting that it's been years. I know they recently finished a animated movie for him for Netflix for the Invader Zim animated movie. I think it's kind of cool that they finished that up. But yeah, he's gonna finish the comic. It's only been a couple of decades, whatever. But he's like, now I guess now is the right time to finish it.
Listen, man, he probably had other projects he wanted to work on. He's not tied to work on Invader Zim forever. Also, they came out with that movie for Netflix. Like, you know.
They did, yeah, they did. So
they're moving. Also, you know, like, just because you want to make a thing doesn't mean the publisher wants to print the thing. So he probably also had to do some convincing on that end. Like, don't be mean to him.
I feel like what he's also low-key saying is, guys, I promise to finish it. Looks on his list. Oh, wow. It's only been 10 years. Like, what are you doing? Snowboarding.
Listen, man. Hard out here for a writer. Leave me alone. Leave Brittany alone.
I'm super happy he's gonna finish it. I know he finished Johnny the Homicidal Maniac. When people found out he was the guy who did that, I'm like, yeah.
But doesn't it make sense though?
Yeah.
Don't it just make some sense there?
True. And something that may not make sense or make sense is that I guess later this year in October 2021, New York Comic Con is going to have a virtual console and a physical in-person event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and call this a certified bad idea. Just because, like, yes, you know, we are on our way to being I feel like I can't even say it because last time we talked about this kind of thing.
Yeah.
We got yelled at. But basically, like, yes, things are better, and yes, things are on the way so that, like, we can be out in public. but like I just don't think that like having anything big like that this year is going to be a good thing, and I wish they wouldn't. Like I wish they would just wait, but I also understand that like the virtual version that they did last year was just pretty shit.
Yeah.
And they need to make money. They're an organization, they need to make cash and pay employees, but it's just like, I'm real sorry. I just don't think that this is a good idea.
No, I feel a bit cringe by this because we don't know. I know that, currently myself, I'm me and yourself as well, Sarah. We were blessed to live in the great New York City. But I do not know how it affects other people from out of state. And I've heard reports that some states aren't recovering as properly, versus et cetera, et cetera. It's a whole mess. Like it has, in my opinion, a nationwide recovery that has a very high thing will be good because people travel out of state to come to conventions. Yes. So unless you're gonna do a only New Yorkers convention, then maybe. But other than that, can you not do this, please? Please?
Yeah, especially because it's not just like these people like stay at. It's not like a business or academic convention where people would stay in the hotel where the convention is taking place. For the most part, these people have to be in hotels. They have to go eat things. They have to, as you said, travel. So they're bringing in unknown vectors into New York City. Now, I don't 100% know how they're going to run this. They could say you can only come if you are a New York, New Jersey, Connecticut resident. They might say you have to be vaccinated. They might say you have to provide proof or have an antibody test or do a PCR the day before, or there's temperature checks or whatever, like a number of different things. But it just seems like on the outset a kind of bad idea, and I don't super know. I mean, again, Reed Pup, who runs New York Comic Con, and like basically every other main convention, like the really big ones are under Reed Pup. I get why they're doing it. I just don't think it's a good idea. And like, even though I am a New York resident who is now vaccinated, I will not be going. Like, I'm just gonna put that out there right now. Like, it's not happening for me.
No, I'm leaning towards no as well. But I'm hoping. But how about this? If they announce something like we will not be taking any outside state person, I'll be a little more subjugant. But at the same time, it just feels so cringe,
Yeah. It just seems like a bad idea, and I wish they would stop.
I want that as a t-shirt. This is a bad idea, and I please want you to stop. I actually wear that as a t-shirt.
It'd be a fun t-shirt to wear.
It would be.
So yes, that's going to be a big one, and we'll have to see what's going to happen as people get vaccinated. How conventions are going to be, in what ways, and like, will certain security measures and health measures be more prevalent in the future? I don't know. It's going to be an interesting time. It's for all of us, really.
Yeah. What a time to be alive, I would say. But yeah, that's I think that covers mostly all the good and the bad, and that's how you make a pizza. Unless you got some extra stuff, we can go into our favorite part of the episode.
Woo!
All right. So, Sarah, what are your recommendations?
So my recommendation this month is for a manga again. I'm going with The Way of the House Husband by Koyusuke Ono. They also made it a TV show, which is also why I've been thinking about it. But I got the first 5 volumes from the library, which, by the way, go get comics from your library. They deserve some love too. If you're like me and you're poor and you can't afford to buy all the comics you want to have. Also, like, I don't have the space on my book.
Oh.
Yeah, you know the feeling. I know you do.
Yeah.
But yes, so Way of the House Husband follows a former Yakuza legend named Tatsu, who sometime in like between like doing all these crazy things that got him to be a legend, gives up being a Yakuza, marries a designer named Miku, and basically chooses to become like a stay-at-home spouse, where he does all the cooking, the cleaning, the grocery shopping, the chores, the laundry, all of that, and like dedicates himself fully to it, right? Like, this isn't a manga where it's like, oh, this inept man is gonna like he's gonna fuck. Like, no, he's like surprisingly good at everything.
Yeah, he's
like,
super competent. It's insane.
He's so comic, but he does everything with such like a level of intensity, and like a lot of like the jokes come from the fact that, like, for example, a figurine breaks, and instead of like throwing it out, he puts it in a little metal barrel thing and buries it like he's burying a body. Or like he'll say certain things like, yeah, I got the good stuff, and it's like basil or something. Sounds very much like a gangster, still kind of dresses like a gangster. Like, he'll still wears like the big lapelled suits, but like with an apron over the front.
Mm-hmm.
And he still has that like the dark shades and the slicked back hair, like very gangster demeanor. And it's really funny because, again, like, you would expect the series to be like, oh, he's actually really bad at it, but like, no, he's a pro. He like knows how to get stains out of things. He builds little furniture. He like is very devoted to his wife and like buys her things that he thinks she'll like. And it's just like very sweet and very fun. Like, it's one of those things. It's one of those comics where like it's just like a joy to read. Like, there's not really much of a narrative. It really is very vignette-y. Like,
it's a slice of life. That's the term they use in Japan. They call it.
Yes, it's a slice of life with a very weird life. Where basically it's just Tatsu either doing things that like you would only see housewives doing, like, doing like the grocery shopping or whatever in a very intense way, or like him being seen by former other Yakuza people and then being like, what the hell are you doing? And then being astounded by his like absolutely master level cooking skills or cleaning skills. So it's definitely something to check out. I believe the first 5 volumes, I think even volume 6, has been translated into English. You should be able to find them just about anywhere. It is ongoing, so who knows what other weird adventures he might get into, but it's seriously worth a read. It's a lot of fun, and it's great, like, it's about a guy who's in the house all day. Like, it's very pandemic friendly.
Yeah. And speaking of, we're doing different recommendations. Since we're recommending manga, I'm going to recommend a manga too, but it's also comfy house life related. It's a family comedy created by Nemu Yoko, and it's called The Delinquent Housewife. So a woman, Komegi, married a guy, Toru, and they just found, and they're going to have a house of their own. They're starting to be a family. And she's now tending the house of her own, but we don't know her secret past. That she used to be a delinquent, like a gangster girl, and she used to be the queen of the old biker gang. So once someone else learns her secrets that she was this gangster girl, she now has to like maintain her appearance as this good housewife, as well as maintain her biker life and being a good person, also being domestic. It's hilarious. It's like I'm cool. Like, did you just call your Kyohai, or her lower members, just get groceries for you? No, they're just friends. And there's a whole bunch of like random girls in like tattoos and giant like bikes just parked in a house giving her stuff. It's hilarious. So think of it a wackier it's like a slightly more wackier version of Way of the House Husband, and I think these two books complement each other.
It's you want to have like a gangsters and house life. This is the episode for you, like. Yeah,
basically. And if you guys like us recommending even manga in the comments, leave us a comment, let us know, because we do read a lot of things besides comics. I mean, mangas are comics.
Yep. Hey, if you ever just want book recommendations, I have so many book recommendations. Just come find me. Just be like, hey, what are you reading? And I'll be like, hey, I'm already 30 books into my 50 book challenge for the year because I don't have chill. I have no chill.
No chill. But anyway. I guess it's, yeah. And the series is still ongoing. I want to double check. Let's double check House Delinquent House, because I have the first 2 volumes. I haven't purchased more of it because of life.
Yeah, I mean, you can also go to your local library, Matt.
You also go to your local library.
Go to your library.
Local library.
The library.
But speaking of things, this is actually a tangent. Borrowing books from your local library helps them track numbers and records of books that happen, which helps them get more government money. So using your local library helps them get money. I support that 100%. Just want you guys to know how it works.
Yeah, even if you don't want to, I mean, you should still read the books. But even if you don't want to read the books, if you just want to check out books, have them in your house, feel sophisticated and knowledgeable, and then drop them back off.
Ooh, actually, it's actually interesting. So the Delinquent Housewife actually has 4 volumes. I have the first 2, so I'm halfway through it. So time to buy 3 and 4, boys.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's a 4-volume series. So, get on that, people.
Get on it. Like a Christmas bonnet. That's a thing.
We're rhyming now.
Yeah.
So
rhyming.
Anyway, guys,
it's rhyme time.
Prime time. Yeah. So, oh God, before we catch the case of the giggles, thanks again for listening to our podcast. For everyone who wants to know, again, please check out recommendations, the Way of the House Husband and the Delinquent Housewife. And yeah, I want you, and if you guys are, please do not attack Ray Fisher. Please do not attack John Berg. Don't attack Joss Whedon, even though he's a scumbag, or Jeff Johns, or anybody else who's, if you check out the Hollywood Reporter and you're disgusted by their actions and everything. The thing is that we want these people to know that they're disgusted by, and we need to have ways to move them out of positions of power without causing violence among them, because if we do that, they'll have an excuse. And we don't want to give people who are jerk-off excuses.
No stabby. No stabby stab.
Yep. With that, I'm signing off with Sarah. See you guys next time.
Bye-bye.